from somebody out there that was an original enemy of whoever created us. So whoever created us has enemies out there in the universe that are diabolical enemies. And we know this is true in government. You know, you may see the president and the first lady and all of that, and it's very prom and proper, but they have enemies, powerful enemies. That's why they have to be totally surrounded by military and protection, because they have serious enemies. Something happened to me that tells me that there's something going on like that. I was in Hawaii many years ago. My wife and some friends, we went to Hawaii for the first time. And I was sitting in a restaurant across the street from the Hilton Village. And in the restaurant, which is a main drag, a main strip, and I was sitting with my back to the door. And someone came in, and I immediately had an electrical charge go through my body. It's bad enough being shocked by the wall plug, but if you don't know it's coming, it's even worse. And I was sitting at the table talking, and all of a sudden, somebody came in, and an electrical shock went through me, and I knocked the stuff on the table. I knocked water and stuff on the table, and I jumped up, and involuntarily, I just jumped up, and something told me, run quick, you're in trouble, you're going to die, run quick. And I ran out the back door of the restaurant, ran across the restaurant, left my wife and my friends, and ran across the restaurant, ran out the back door, and the voice said, run quick, you're in trouble. Go across the street to the hotel. And I screamed, and I remember yelling, I can't go across the street. It's a main, you know, there's traffic out there. And it said, run, there will be no traffic, run. And so I ran out into the street involuntarily. I was not making a conscious decision to do any of this. It was being foisted on me. And I ran across the street, and as it so happened, there was no traffic for that little stretch. I ran out, and it said, go out around the hotel. The voice said, run quick to the hotel. And I ran around the hotel, and it said, all right, you're safe now. Now you're safe. And I sat down, my heart was pounding, and I kept thinking, what did I just do? And how am I going to explain this to my wife and my friends? What I just did, involuntarily. I don't know what happened. That happened to me twice. The second time was a few months later in Los Angeles. I was on the corner of Fairfax and Wilshire Boulevard in a little coffee shop called Johnny's Hamburger Stand. It's a little restaurant. I was sitting at the counter, and I noticed peripheral vision. I didn't look over to see them, but peripheral vision, I saw two guys walk in. And as I walked in, immediately an electrical shock hit me. I almost fell out. I was at the counter. And the voice said, get out quick, you're in trouble, run. And so I grabbed a bunch of money, threw it on the counter, and tripped, trying to get out of the chair on the counter. I got up, and I hit the side door, and I ran north on Fairfax. And the voice kept saying, run, your life is in danger, run quick. And I ran about 2 or 3 blocks until I was just about out of breath. And then the voice said, all right, you're safe now. You're safe now. Sit down. And I sat down. My heart was pounding again. And it was involuntary. I didn't make a conscious choice to run. I just started running. And the voice was yelling to me. It was actually like a yell. Move quick. Your life is in danger. So it happened twice to me. I have no idea what that all means. I'm just telling you what happened.
Okay, so you are positing the fact that there is a symbol, that in the symbol is basically telling the world of a new world order, and the return, or the basically a son taking control,
yeah.
And that this is happening sometime in the near future.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you think around 2012, is that correct?
Yeah, that's what I think.
Okay, and then you're talking also about really reptilians and an agenda, which
Yeah.
is not quite clear, but there's something going on with
That's
that.
right.
So what I'm now asking you is whether or not that so-called king is reptilian?
Well, I don't know. And what I would say to an audience that's watching this, I've said it too many times before, but I think it bears saying again. I'm not the world's foremost authority on anything. I'm just telling you what I have seen with my own eyes, what has happened to me in my life. But I would also say to anyone who would scoff at this, just look at what I have to offer first, before you make a decision if I'm crazy or not. See what I have amassed in the past 40 years that I haven't told you, that you don't know that I have. And see the research that I have done on this subject of this new order of the world, which I started talking about back in 1960. I was sending letters to Belmont, Massachusetts. Back in 1960, Belmont, Massachusetts, I was sending letters to the John Birch Society, who had just been formed in 1959. And the John Birch Society was, of course, exposing all the communist activity in the world, especially in America. I was already well into all of that in '59 when they started. And so I started sending them articles that things like, well, you need to look at this symbol and this word and this term here. And also you might want to look at this guy and this organization. So I was sending them little tidbits of information back in 1960 on the subject of Illuminati, on secret societies, not Illuminati. Because Illuminati I found out about, like I said, in 1967. When Anthony Hilder produced the series of records of 333 and a third record albums called Illuminati. The man speaking was an incredibly interesting man named Myron Fagan. And I don't know if you've ever heard Myron Fagan's Illuminati records. It will knock you out. Absolutely. Today, it's still a knockout.
Wow.
And when I hear it today, I heard it 40 years ago. When I hear it today, it's still a mind blower.
I have a question for you that is a little bit moving onto another topic. It has to do with the Illuminati, but I wonder if you would address it. What is the significance of merging the red and the black?
Oh, that's interesting. It's called red and black and white, all three, red, black, and white, are referred to in Hollywood as death head colors, because death head comes from a Nazi organization called the SS, the Gestapo. Gestapo was referred to as the Order of the Death Head. And the Order of the Death Head, Gestapo in Nazi Germany, symbol was the skull and crossbones, skull and bones. That was their symbol. But to the Germans on the inside, the Gestapo was called the Order of Death Head. And Death Head's colors in Hollywood. I attended a lecture many years ago by a black doctor who worked at Martin Luther King Hospital. And some of my friends in the motion picture industry, black entertainers, called me and said, you really need to be here tonight. You need to come and hear this. It's going to be a private lecture by a doctor from Chicago who came out here, was an actual doctor working at Martin Luther King Hospital, and he was giving a lecture on death head colors. And in it, it was fascinating. It was a slide presentation at a library, in Santa Monica Library, in a private invitation only. There's only about 25 to 30 people there. And he was explaining the death head colors, why it's black, white, and red, and how black, white, and red are used in motion pictures. When someone is going to die or someone's going to be killed, those are the three prominent colors that will always be in those scenes. They're called death head colors. They symbolize the darkness of the darkest, the most profound presence of evil. Red, white, and black.
But there's also a significance in terms of the occult with regard to certain genetics.
Certain genetics?
Genetics.
Oh, of course, of course.
In other words, the red being a red-headed person with certain kinds of DNA.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure there is more to that.
And the black being a blonde, usually Celtics, a mixture perhaps.
I'm sure that there is that too, yeah. The only thing I was saying is that was very interesting, because I remember that night he talked about the European Masonic orders, and how the Mexican gangs in Los Angeles and around the country use Masonic symbols from a particular Masonic order in Europe, while the black gangs use an opposing symbols in terms and symbols of a different Masonic order in Europe. And that most likely the gang members themselves do not realize that these are actually can be traced back to Masonic symbols in Europe. And so I believe that the gangs going on in America today are being organized, directed, and financed out of Europe to destroy our culture in America. I think that European Freemasonry is heavily involved in destroying America. And you need to understand the whole story about how America was founded, and how it was founded as a corporation. It's a privately owned corporation. We can talk about that for days on end. And this is just my opinion, one man's opinion. But I'm going to give you my opinion as to the bottom line on the world today and the stuff that's going on the earth today. What we call Illuminati was originally a term which is given to us in Spain to a religious order in Spain that later on were amalgamated into what we call Jesuits. So the Jesuits are truly Illuminati themselves.
And the Vatican, and you go
well, that
into
was what I was going to say, yes. I believe that one of the most evil organizations that exist on the earth today, and you'd have to have spent all the years with me in libraries and research societies and traveling around the world and talking to other writers, authors, lecturers, and teachers, and collecting this stuff over a period of 45 to 48 years to understand what I'm telling you. But I believe today the most serious evil organization on the face of the earth is the Vatican. That's my personal opinion. I think if the Vatican was done away with off the face of the earth, there would be a shout of liberation heard around the world. Because the Vatican, in my opinion, is the bulwark of this dark thing that's happening on the earth. So when you talk about Illuminati, when you talk about the really dark criminal stuff that's going on in the earth, you're talking the Vatican. You're talking the Knights of Malta, which gave us the 6 men who founded the CIA in America, were all Catholics, members of the Knights of Malta. When you begin to look at the banking fraternities in America, like the Bank of America, Union Bank in California, all of these people who founded these banks and today are running the banking establishment are all Knights of Malta, Catholic Masonry. So when I hear people talking about the Jews this, the Jews that, and the Jews are responsible, I said, no, you better go back and do your homework. The Jews have been slaughtered all over Europe by the Vatican. You need to remember that for at least 2,300 years, Rome has dominated Europe. Under the Caesars of Rome, and in the 4th century, late 4th century, the Vatican comes into being, and the Vatican dominates all of Europe. All the heads of state, all the princes and kings and rulers, all the kings and rulers in Europe rule by the divine right. It's called the divine right of kings. What are you talking about? Who represents divine to give the king the right? The Pope. The Pope appoints certain families to be over the French. The Pope appoints certain people to be over the Germans and over the British. And so by divine right. Why? Because the Pope represents God. And the Pope says that this family is holy and that they should rule. And therefore they can now say they rule by divine right. And the whole idea of divine goes back to the chalice, you know, and the Holy Grail. And in the Catholic Mass, you have the priest breaking the bread and then pouring the wine. Well, wine is made from grapes, and wine is red. So it's a red grape wine represents the blood of the atonement blood. It's a blood sacrifice. But where does the blood, I mean, where does the wine come from? It comes from grapes, and grapes grow on divine. And that's where we get the concept and the word divine, because it comes from, grapes come from divine. So that's where we get the word divine. And once you begin to realize how the Vatican has, for over 2,300 years, Rome has dominated Europe, and in 1,600 years, the Vatican has dominated Europe. And Europe for 2,300 years has dominated the earth. So if you want to talk about conspiracies and you want to talk about evil, don't talk about Jews. You better talk about the people who would control Europe for over 2,300 years, Caesar of Rome, the Roman Catholic establishment. There's the real story. Now you're getting into mafiosi. Now you're getting into the fraternal orders of Freemasonry out of Europe, Knights of Malta. Now you're getting into the organized crime, Sicily, Corsica, and all of the profound drug running, white slavery, murder for hire, Vatican. I mean, even, what was his name, the producer of Godfather? What was his name? Francis Ford Coppola. And Godfather 3. Francis Ford Coppola and Godfather 3, the third one in the series, opens up with Michael Corleone being anointed by the cardinal in New York to be a member of the Knights of Malta in the Catholic Church in New York. What is he telling you? The connection between the Vatican, the Holy Father, there's nothing holy about the Holy Father. There's nothing holy in Israel. Nothing. There's nothing holy in the Vatican. There is nothing holy in Salt Lake City. There's nothing holy in religion, period. It's a way that the masters, whoever these entities are who are controlling the human race, they have set up certain institutions of learning, of education, religion, and government. That's why I've said you better go back and do your homework on where the history of the world comes from. I don't see the world being run by Jews. I see Jews being used, but you will find that even Rothschild, the Rothschild family who we hear so much about, those Jews who were running Europe. No, if you go back and look at the history of the Rothschilds, you will find that Rothschild represented the Vatican. He was dealing for the Vatican. He was a Vatican banker appointed by the Vatican to deal for them, so that the Catholic Church would never be involved in all that terrible stuff going on in banking. We'll let the Jew do it. Then, of course, if something comes out, well, it's Jewish, obviously. No, it's your money that he was handling. So if you really want to nail down the real enemy to America and to the earth, I'm telling you, it's only taken me 48 years to get here. I was born and raised Catholic. I mean, my whole family were very Catholic in town. We were the most Catholic family in town. But I know history. And I know that the most criminal organization on the face of the earth, in my humble opinion, I don't know that much about it, I've just been looking at it for 48 years, is the Vatican. As far as I'm concerned, it's the worst thing that's ever happened to the world, is what's really going on in the Vatican. And that doesn't even bring up the subject of propaganda due. P2, the propaganda due, P2 Lodge, that was even mentioned in Godfather 3 twice. There's a Masonic order in Europe called propaganda due. It's called P2. And it's connected directly, P2 is connected directly through membership with Opus Dei and the Knights of Malta and the Jesuits. Jesuits, Opus Dei, Knights of Malta, Masonic order, are connected directly to something called propaganda due. P2 Lodge of Freemasonry. P2 Lodge of Freemasonry is world famous to people who do research into criminal organizations. And P2 is pure, unadulterated, pouring directly out of the trough, Nazism. Underworld organizations, drugs, human trafficking, pornography, violence, underworld organizations, all P2. They are the ones who are promoting the right-wing death squads in Central and South America, Mexico, the drug cartels in Colombia. We're talking Catholic, Knights of Malta, drug cartels, Colombia, extraordinary vice on a level which it is hard for most humans to recognize, and it's all being orchestrated out of the Holy Father and Rome. This is why I've said so many times, there's never going to be a time in the history of this country that America will be saved. I don't believe America can be saved. I truly do not believe that America or the human race, I don't think it's just my opinion again, but I don't think the human race can be saved, and I don't think America can be saved, because so many millions of people just love the filth and degeneracy of the world we live in. They love it. They love the Holy Father and all the pomp and glory of all the politicians and kings and rulers and the pusillanimous pictures of Bush kissing the ring of the Holy Father. What does that look like for Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, in full color on the news, bowing down and curtsying and bowing down and kissing the ring of a Roman pontiff? The men who founded our great nation would throw up with this treason, high crimes and treason against the state by these people who call themselves America's leaders. I'm telling you, the Vatican has given us the mafia, drug running, prostitution, terrorism, violence,
child
pornography, all of it.
And the children that are disappearing. Are you familiar with Leo Zagami?
Say it again.
Leo Zagami.
Oh yes, yeah. I've heard him many times.
He has talked about when he's gone back into the fold because they tortured him. But when he was out for a moment talking to us, he talked about underneath the Vatican is a huge reptilian base.
I don't know. I wasn't there, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Right.
I don't know.
So there is some kind of link up between the agenda of the Illuminati, the Vatican, who's heading all of that up, and this reptilian rollout that to get back to where we were talking about, and perhaps this so-called figure who is taking the throne and the symbolism that you're talking about. Yeah,
I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't shock me. I want to say something about Dan Brown's movies.
Okay. Angels and Demons and the other one.
Da Vinci Code.
Da Vinci Code.
Da Vinci Code, and now this new one.
Is it really called the
I think it's called the hidden symbol, or the secret symbol, or something like that.
Okay.
Which my producer friend and I were going to do a movie, and we were going to call it the hidden secret, or the secret symbol.
I understand.
And now there's Dan Brown comes out secret. As far as I'm concerned, I have no respect whatsoever for Dan Brown. None. I have no respect for the man at all. Because as far as I'm concerned, he's plagiarized and stolen. And I don't like people who steal, because I've had it happen to me.
He stole from Holy Blood, Holy Grail, isn't that right?
Absolutely. He stole the whole thing. Mm-hmm. He stole the whole thing. That whole story, Dan Brown and the Da Vinci Code and all this other angels and demons, all of that he stole. Now let me tell you what I think. This is just my opinion. I think Dan Brown is a plant. I think he's nothing more than a paid lackey and a plant. I am totally sure that the real Illuminati, whoever these guys are at the top of the world, use people like Dan Brown who don't mind making a lot of money to become a whore. And I think that's all he is. In my humble opinion, I think Dan Brown's just a whore. He's just taking the money and sleeping with the enemy. Because I think what he's doing is he is nothing more than presenting what his masters behind the scenes want the public. And so they will spend all kinds of money telling you about how wonderful Dan Brown is, and oh my God, he's so brilliant and intelligent, and all this silly nonsense. And the people who are so used to sucking up to Hollywood will believe that stuff. Me, I've been around Hollywood 48 years. I know this stuff backwards and forwards. I think Dan Brown is nothing more than a front for a very powerful Masonic order in Europe, which is trying to lay the foundations for this Novus Ordo Seclorum, dawn of a new day, sunrise thing that's coming. I think Dan Brown is nothing more than a whore taking the money and making it look like he's the one that came up with this, when in point of fact, no, it was stolen. It was stolen from three men in England, Bagent, Lee, and Lincoln. Back in 1980, there was a book put out, and it became a New York bestseller for many, many months. It was a top-of-the-line bestseller called Holy Blood, Holy Grail. And the three authors were three British authors, Bagent, Lee, and Lincoln. And they outlined for the first time the story of the Knights Templar Masonic Order in Europe, the Knights of the Holy Grail, the whole concept of a Masonic secret society operating in the world. And I would be a bit surprised if they weren't better informed about this than what they let us know. I don't think they just might chance happen upon it. I think they already knew something, and they were putting it out in the book in such a way as to start people thinking about it. But nonetheless, Bagent, Lee, and Lincoln were extraordinarily brilliant writers, and their research was impeccable. I mean, these guys nailed it down, and even today around the world, people who are knowledgeable in these subjects will agree. Bagent, Lee, and Lincoln did one hell of a job. They had their homework done.
Okay, well, I have one last question, and this has been an amazing journey to take with you, and I hope that we can go down that road a little further in the future. And I think that people that are watching this really need to get up to speed with following your other work, your previous work, hopefully attending any conferences you're speaking at. I believe that you are coming forward. You just spoke. You had no preparation whatsoever, and you spoke at our Awake and Aware Camelot conference here in Los Angeles just last weekend, and it's really an honor to be here with you. But I want to ask you if you think that this Illuminati and what's going on in the United States right now, do you really think that they are going to be successful in taking down this country? Because it's clear that there is someone protecting you, there's a group protecting you. They certainly have some amazing powers, as you've demonstrated. Do you think that these powers, these Illuminati people behind the scenes, are going to be successful at taking down the United States government?
Yes, I totally agree. Yes, that's what I think.
And is that, I mean, you do have people behind the scenes that are protecting you. You've demonstrated that time and time again on this video.
Right.
They are therefore, in theory, protecting us here, Project Camelot, and other of our witnesses and so on, because we are all talking about the same thing from different angles.
That's
and
right.
Getting our research together and so
Right.
on. But in essence, what I'm wondering is, there are white hats operating, as you know, and as we know, because we have been interacting with those people from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's possible that these people can be stopped?
No.
You don't?
No, I do not.
Okay.
I categorically say no. I do not believe there is any reasonable evidence of anything of hope for America or for the world. That's my personal opinion. I think that the light at the end of the tunnel is a train coming. There's no doubt in my mind, for myself, I do not believe America or the world at large is going to be able to extricate itself out of this situation. No, I do not believe it's possible. And the reason why is because the people are too stupid. They're too ill-informed, ignorant, ill-informed, unread, self-centered, egotistical, materialistic, and downright stupid. And they don't care. Basically speaking, people don't care. Ludwig von Mises, in one of his books, the great European economist Ludwig von Mises said, and he's right on as far as I'm concerned, he said that in every age and in every country, the people of every nation have always supported a dictator. The people have always supported a dictator, and they always will. There's never been a time in the history of the human race that you can show me where the people of a nation rose up and demanded their freedom, liberty, and justice for all. Not even in America. 97% of the male population in America at the time of the American Revolution did nothing. Only 3% took up arms against the British masters and gave us a modicum of freedom. But happily, that will never happen again. America is finished.
Did this father of the girlfriend that you had, when he spoke to you, did he tell you that we're doomed? I mean, why would he call it a UFO, and why would he tell you all these things if we were just going down the toilet? Did he tell you that we were doomed? Did he tell you there was a war and that we were going to lose no matter what?
No.
Do you, okay, let me phrase this. Do you realize that your mission and your call to arms, which is really coming right on the verge here? I mean, I think that the new release of V is sort of a signal to the populace, a last-ditch attempt to wake the people up as to what may be coming. And basically, you have a mission, we have a mission, and I'm sorry, you know, Jordan Maxwell, and you're a brilliant man, but you were put here for a reason. You have incredible force behind you. The man who spoke to you all those years ago and told you that you would have a journey is certainly behind you now. And I would say that judging from everything that's gone on with Project Camalot, that we have some of the same force behind us. And I have to say that the fact that you're sitting here today and you're talking to us and you're alive and well, and that you're coming forward at this moment and talking about things with really no holds barred is indication to me that there is something going on that's more than you have dreamed of in your philosophy. So I want to thank you very much.
Well, I want to answer that question. I do not believe America can be saved. I do not believe the human race can be extricated or saved from what is coming. I do not believe that my mission here is to save anybody. I believe what I am doing is to help those who want to know. Those handful of people who are awakening and who sincerely, spiritually understand the dynamics of what's going on and who want to know and want to change and want the protection of the spirit. That's a small modicum of people, a very small niche. I do not believe America can be saved. I'm doing what I'm doing only to help those who want to know.
Obviously, you are a person who is trying to wake up people, okay? And sometimes there has to be a severe word told to the people in order to actually get them to awaken. And I do believe that this is part of your mission. But I will thank you from Project Camalot. I hope that you are wrong about your final judgment on the human race.
I do too.
And I'm sure you do too.
Absolutely. That's why I'm trying to do whatever I can to help those who want to know, and hopefully it may spread. Thank you.
Thank you.